for tuning in to another of the episodes of the Optimal Health Program today. I'm Dr. Chris Calapai. We'll be talking to you about a lot of great stuff. Frankie here, holding down the fort electronically.
Always.
He's the electronic genius here. And hopefully all the platforms, we're at 20 platforms now, are all doing well and holding in the crazy rainy weather. It seems that computers always go crazy when it's rainy out, right?
Well, hopefully not today, Doc.
Yeah, it happens in my office all the time. I don't know why. But at any rate, we love to talk to our friends at Rumble, LFA, are some of our favorite people out there, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. I can't go through the whole list because I don't have it memorized, but thank you all for listening. Thank you for calling in, typing in your questions. We love this. As you may know, I've done live radio for the better part of 35 years, up until about COVID, and then started switching over to get more integration with the podcast because I love the connection with people and the conversations and such. So, and as I say, much more so lately than ever before, people are asking really in-depth questions, great questions, not simple questions like it was, years ago. People are really into reading and learning. And yesterday we were speaking about something, and the person that typed in already had
They beat us.
4 or 5 things to say that were the next comments I was going to make, so it's great. Love it. If you'd like to call the office, Garden City, 516-794-0404, and we'd love to chat with you. We're putting out a program, which we're going to talk about in a minute, this RPM program, to help people track their blood pressure, their oxygen, their pulse, blood sugar. And this watch that I'm going to explain to you in just a minute does like 15 or 20 different things. So it's a great way to track what's going on in your body, your sleep patterns, how much you walk every day, your exercise. It's a brilliant idea. And we're offering this for people that can't really get to the office as well, because we have a mechanism of doing the telehealth visit with people over the phone, sending a lab to their home, and then reviewing the blood work over the phone, setting up these devices so we can track and monitor and make sure their health state is in the best position. So for people that live really anywhere within the sound of my voice, we can set this up for you. Website is drcalapai.com, drcalapai.com. And thank you for the emails. We get so many of them, and we're diligently working, and I have to answer a dozen questions a day, and I'll sit there with the staff, and 4 or 5 of the staff working for me, I'll say, okay, this is the question. Tell this person this is what we can do, blah, 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 blah. We need to get the blood done. Ask them to bring in copies of their blood work, write down their diet, their meds, and we kind of integrate that way. And then people come in, or we do it over the phone, and we can help a lot of people that way. Okay, so let's see some interesting stuff about phytosterols. There are components in really good foods that are great for your body. We've always known that in general, but people want to know why it's good to have nuts in your diet: almonds, pistachios, walnuts, sunflower seeds, soy, to some extent, kidney beans, broccoli, olive oil. These foods have the highest amounts of phytosterols in them. And phytosterols help to inhibit the absorption of cholesterol. So they're great to have in your diet for nutrient sense anyway, because they bring a lot of good nutrients. But the phytosterols, according to a really big study, decrease the risk of diabetes and heart disease. So this is a great study I pulled off the computer yesterday. It talks about Nutrition 2025, the flagship publication and meeting of the American Society of Nutrition, really touting the beauty of the phytosterols and decreasing the risk by significant percents, between 9 to 10%. So when I see something like this, I say, yeah, great. It's a great add-on. And I like the fact that we can keep the carbs down. That decreases the sugar, decreases diabetes risk, helps decrease triglycerides, cholesterol, LDL. Exercise, also big benefit to your blood vessels, burning sugar, burning fat, phytosterols, another benefit. Using combinations of chromium that can decrease appetite and also decrease sugar fluctuations, correcting vitamin D, vitamin C. So imagine all these things put together, and then look at your cardiovascular and your diabetic risk. So I've been doing the entire thing for years, and this is just another nice study that says why those foods with the phytosterols are important. So that's why we add those into the picture. But good to tell people about it because some people don't know enough or much about it. Another great article about Neosporin, that little antibiotic ointment. And I've been doing this for a long time and telling patients this for a long time. You can take some of the Neosporin and put it up against your nostril. And for people that do this when they go to bed at night, you're significantly inhibiting infection because that's where it comes in, typically through your nose, getting into your body. They're talking about a new study that decreases viral infections before they have a chance to become severe. They describe that this common antibiotic boosts the immune response to both SARS-CoV-2, influenza in rodents, and helping to prevent significant infectious disease. And at some point, in certain circumstances, that in immune weak people might increase their risk of death. So little tidbits. I know people over the years, and doctors that I knew years ago, who would take a little Q-tip and put a little peroxide on it. And of course, you can swab your ears, clean your ears, and some people do that with their nose to help to kill germs in their nose. Because, again, that's where a lot of organisms seem to come in. What else do we have here that's interesting? We spoke yesterday about methylene blue, and we wanted to talk about that for a moment. Methylene blue has reached a great deal of research now. It's everywhere. Forward-thinking doctors are talking about it. People that are into the health realm are talking about it. Methylene blue is a chemical compound with a variety of potential health benefits. A lot of research on it. It's been around for over 100 years. So it helps to support mitochondrial function, and this is born out of research and studies. It enhances energy production. It can act as an electron carrier in the mitochondria, improving the efficiency of ATP, which is essential, obviously, for energy. Here also we'll comment about NAD because NAD works in a similar realm. They work hand in hand to help to take oxygen to create 36 molecules of ATP for energy. The methylene blue helps reduce oxidative stress, has antioxidant properties, improves oxygen utilization, helping with issues including chronic fatigue syndrome for post-COVID or long COVID patients, neuroprotective properties, cognitive enhancement, protects against neurodegeneration, improves memory, focus, concentration, being used for patients that have Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Antimicrobial activity helps to inhibit bacteria and fungal organisms. Potential for photodynamic therapy. It's used in antimicrobial photodynamic therapy to kill bacteria in the presence of light. Very interesting. Skin health, immune system modulation. So this is something that we've been looking at for a long time, and for a lot of our patients, you take a capsule once a day of a powdered methylene blue, and this will give you your best outcome. The only funny association with it is that your urine's going to come out bluish, turquoise, green. Some people.
Thanks for the warning.
Well, it's kind of the way it is. I don't see that as an issue. The only problem is we've had some patients who've complained, well, I have to get up at night to go to the bathroom, and I'm really tired. So I get up at night, stumble to the bathroom, and sometimes they forget to flush. So they may get a little staining in a white or cream-colored toilet bowl if you don't flush right away, which you should anyway.
Someone's just asking, what's the science behind methylene blue?
I just went through some of that. So the benefits are a variety of things, especially mitochondrial improvement for oxidation as an antioxidant and also for energy to produce ATP. So there are a variety of studies on it. You can go to Scholar Google, and I tell all my patients to, put Scholar Google on their desktop of their computer, or they can just click on it and look up methylene blue or look up any of these things, and you'll see a variety of different studies on it. So I think it makes a great deal of sense. We recommend it for a lot of patients, just as we do NAD. These are things that work really well for your body. There's no downside risk or side effect. So I think important to put into what I would call a comprehensive anti-aging protocol or a comprehensive mechanism to help to keep your brain working your best, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidney, your pancreas. So correcting vitamins, minerals, hormones, exercise, all of this has anti-aging benefit, some things more so than others. All of this has the potential to decrease the risk of heart disease and diabetes, low carb, exercise, etc., taking vitamins. Research shows that vitamins decrease the risk of cancer. So this is all part of a very important process. And the ultimate mechanism of anti-aging is, when needed, use your own cells to help to repair damage in your body. That's stem cell therapy. Your own cells extracted in a minute and a half, put back into your body, will help to create growth and repair. So some terrific information on that. Also, for those of you who haven't seen the website, go to the website. You'll see a lot of this information. Certainly a lot of our great results with stem cell therapy. At drcalapai.com, boom.
Boom.
Right there.
I'm quick. Someone's just asking, is the blue like a detox thing?
So there's a good comment about that. You're repairing, you're oxygenating, you're giving your body tools to improve cellular function. So just in and about that mechanism, yes. But try to think of the worst things you could have in your system and how to get them out of your body. The worst things you could have in your system are heavy metals because they're linked with dozens of cancers. They're linked with organ failure and degeneration and damage. They compete for receptor sites with your minerals, and if the metals are there, the minerals can't get there to allow your cells to work well. That can cause cell damage and death. So when we talk about that, I have the conversation about heavy metal testing through blood and urine. Blood looks at 5 metals, urine looks at 21 metals. Urine's a more realistic understanding of what's been stored in your body and leaking out. Blood is just a quick look at 5 metals to see what recently came in, but you got to get them out of your system. There's no benefit to having them there. All they do is cause damage. And you can clearly see that aluminum is linked with Alzheimer's. That's been around for the concept, that idea, probably 80 to 100 years. Cadmium and breast cancer, the list goes on and on and on. Even small amounts of metals can cause brain fog, MS, Parkinson's, all sorts of bad things. Heart failure, organ failure. So you want to look at as what we do with the entire picture, but also take a look at the metals and get them out of the system.
Someone's asking, is methylene blue over the counter?
Yes. Well, it's something that people can get over the counter from pharmacies in different places. The only problem is I can only get pharmaceutical grade product because I work with a compounding pharmacy or the regular pharmacies or the manufacturers. So I can't buy something that online someone might be able to get, which I don't recommend anyway, because a lot of these non-vetted or verified labs or pharmacies will make product and make it for animals, but then there's always a disclaimer not meant for human use because they're not allowed to sell to humans because they're not a vetted, compounded, or regular pharmacy or manufacturer. So we write prescriptions for it, and I create that for the patients so they're getting the best of the best products. So yeah, you want to make sure you're getting things in the best source or best fashion. We can talk about NAD a little bit as well because it's in the same ballpark. NAD is really important for a variety of things, including that pathway from oxygen creation to change that into the course of this 36 molecules of ATP, improve cognitive function, regulate metabolism, improve insulin sensitivity, decrease inflammation, protect against metabolic disease. As I mentioned, energy production, memory, focus, concentration, endurance with exercise, DNA repair, very important. So these are things you want to have on board because what else is going to help to repair DNA? Nothing that we know other than the NAD. And you want to have that on board. Again, all benefit, no drawback, no risk or side effect. Oh, I have to turn my phone off. People are buzzing me.
Popular
They
guy.
buzz me the most
When you're
on
live.
Saturdays when I'm at work. And as you can tell, my voice is a little bit off because I talk all day. And we were a little backed up today, so I raced here. I wasn't able to bring my sport jacket to wear with my shirt. But there are days with sport jacket and there may be days without.
Someone just asked, what's the best way to take it? Pills, drops, or IV?
For NAD or for the methylene blue?
That's a good question.
So
Can you
methylene blue is
classify-
capsule. It's a powder in a capsule. You've seen people online and on social media put a liquid into the liquid NAD drops into water and then drink it and your tongue turns blue. There's no reason for that. Take a capsule, swallow the capsule, you're good. For NAD, the two different ways to do it would be either IV, which is expensive, or sub-Q injection, which we prefer. think of the logistics, think of the chemistry of it. If you do an IV, it's going to cost a lot. So we can offer it. We don't really do that because it's just too much money for a short time benefit. No one's going to do an IV once a week if it costs between $1,200 to $2,000. It's what they charge in the city. I would never charge that, but I'd much rather you take the NAD sub-Q and do that over the course of a few months for a fraction of that price. So the sub-Q is a better way to go. You could do it every other day. You could do it every day. And you've got it for 3 months for half of the cost of what it would be if you were to do the IV. So it just makes more sense that way.
You want to tell the LFA audience, they don't know anything about your trip last Saturday.
Oh, wow, yeah. Okay, so we did a nice program yesterday on Lyme disease. And just as a little recap, very important for people who live anywhere near bushes or grass, and I mean any bush or any grass in this country, to worry a little bit about the fact that ticks are everywhere. And this is a great conference at Drexel University. Doctors from all over the place, all over the world gathered, and we're talking about statistics. It seems that 500,000 people a year in this country are diagnosed with Lyme, but a lot of people don't get a bullseye rash, so they don't go to the doctor. Some people don't see or feel the tick. The tick can get on, give you the spirochete, and get off. 40% of people that are positive for Lyme also have the other organisms, cofactors, Babesia, ehrlichiosis, Anaplasma, Bartonella. So it's a lot more of a problem than we've ever seen before. And I remember looking back years ago at the graph of the country, a chart that said Lyme disease, and it was sort of mostly in New England, and, Connecticut was one of the first spots that we figured that out. But now it's everywhere. It's across the entire country. It's across the entire world. If we look at, yesterday I was speaking about all the different types of Lyme. It's not just Borrelia burgdorferi. It's Borrelia mayoni, americana, bavarensis, lusitania, spielmanni, Bessetti, andersoni, japonica, Guarini, Afzelli. Guarini, Afzelli are in Europe. So the creature is everywhere. The size of the larvae, which is the tiniest form, the littlest of the babies, is so small you'd never ever see it. And when they took a picture of the larvae, the nymph, and then the adult, you saw the adult forms because they were really decent size, maybe a few millimeters, maybe half the size of the top of a rubber eraser on a pen. Not hard to see. And the nymph, which is the most aggressive form, is 2 or 3 times maybe the size of the larvae, but really small. So unless you're really looking closely, you may not see it. If you've got a decent amount of hair in your body, you'd never find it in your scalp unless someone's looking for it. So these organisms are super aggressive between the end of April, May, and October. They exist all over the place. I walked outside of the conference yesterday, and I had this different opinion of looking at bushes and grass and, everything in the foliage, because you know that they're everywhere. Your animals will bring them into your home. When the tick bites another animal and brings that into his body, it gets into his stomach and soon gets to the saliva. When it's in the saliva, it's very infectious. If they bite you, if it's in the saliva, you'll be exposed immediately. And that's why they say that red circular expanding bullseye rash can occur when people are exposed. Sometimes they don't make a round bullseye rash. It becomes this weird, flat, red-looking rash. It doesn't have to be the bullseye. It could be almost like little pimples. So we have to understand that the rash doesn't have to be there in probably 40% of the cases. And maybe more than that, or maybe the rash is only there in 40% of the cases. That's what I should say. And we have to look at the entire picture: fatigue, aches and pains, brain fog, joint pain, difficulty with neurologic function. So this can be very mild or very severe. So psychiatric or psychologic issues, anxiety, depression, the list goes on and on. So my take in speaking with the doctors after the morning session and the afternoon session, the lecturers were there to talk, and we had a great, sort of a roundtable discussion. You've got to ask every patient, where do you live? Do you live anywhere near bushes and who doesn't? And grass, tall grass. Do you have pets? You got to start asking people these things. And if so, then we have to test. So the typical tests that are still around from the big labs that are locally used is probably the first Lyme test that came out for Borrelia burgdorferi, the original strain. It's not testing for all the other strains, and they don't automatically test for the other cofactors. So if a person believes, and the doctor believes, that from symptomatology or the rash that they have Lyme, you've got to put the person on the antibiotic for a couple of weeks. And normally it takes 3 to 4 weeks before your antibodies will show for that creature, like any other bug that you're exposed to. But my comment with the doctors, and they all agreed, was that if you think you have Lyme symptom-wise and you've had the bug bite or the rash, get on the antibiotic. Within 2 weeks on the antibiotic, test the blood. Because starting to kill the bug will allow that to show up in your blood test. The best lab to send the blood work to is California. It's called IGeneX. It's a big lab. They do all the different tests, not just an antibody test against the bug. They do PCR testing. They do Western blot, of course. They do immunoblot. They can do urine tests to look for the actual organism itself. So they're by far the best. And they have these secondary panels with Babesia, Ehrlichia, tick relapsing fever, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, all the other bugs, which you may want to check if the Lyme test turns positive. Because when the Lyme creature, the tick, meets with some vermin who carry all these bugs, chances are 40% of the time you're getting another bug with that.
Someone just asked, are DEET, and permethrin actually safe to use regularly for prevention of ticks?
It's hard to say. I don't know how safe they are regularly. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some side effect because it's a chemical. I have a guy that comes to my house twice a month and will spray a chrysanthemum-based organic product that helps to ward off and kill, ticks and fleas and mosquitoes. So I think everybody should consider that. And wherever you live, I think it makes sense to spray that. Have your dogs checked. Any outdoor animals going in and out, you've got to check them and bring them to the vet. Have them do a blood test. You'll be shocked. I was shocked. I'm not really shocked at most things, but beyond that, there are things called biofilm that are organisms, not completely outlined with their own names as yet, that can cover or coat the Lyme bug and make it hard for your immune system and therefore antibiotics to attack it. So now we have to test for biofilm. Crazy but true. The spirochete of Lyme, which is spiral, obviously, can mutate into a singular circular round form and not have the same cell membrane. So if you're using an antibiotic that breaks down the cell membrane to kill a bug, it's not going to work. It'll work if it's in the spirochete form, but not in the circular round form. So a lot of crazy info. But now we have a completely different understanding and a better understanding is how to test for and treat Lyme. Vitamin C IVs are great. Glutathione IVs are also great to inhibit the biofilm. So there's a lot that we put into the picture now. So great conference. The next big conference is in October in San Antonio. So I'm going to head down there.
This question was a little older, but someone just asked, so you're saying a single tick bite can give you more than one disease at the same time?
Absolutely. 40% of the time it gives you more than one bug. And remember, these are heavy-duty researchers, doctors who, PhDs and MD PhDs, et cetera, that have been doing this for a very long time. And their perspective, based upon literature that I saw up on the screen, the projectors, they said that 40% of the time a person that has Lyme has the other bugs. Could be one or two other bugs. So, like I say, you have to test the appropriate way for Lyme, and if Lyme is positive, then you got to test all the other bugs. Because if not, you're missing it. And if you don't treat the Lyme well enough to show eradication of symptoms and the blood test changing, you can treat a little bit and the bug will come back. It'll be stronger. That happened early on with Lyme because in the 70s and 77, where Lyme, Connecticut, the bug was first discussed, doctors gave 2 days, 3 days, 5 days of an antibiotic. I don't think that ever worked. And from what the doctors are saying now with all this research, it didn't work. And if you have any inkling, it's got to be at least a few weeks. And then either doxycycline or cephalosporin or amoxicillin can be used. And in a positive Lyme test, you have to be on it for 4 to 6 weeks. Again, great research. Doctors spending a huge amount of time understanding this. Got to test for biofilms. Got to look at the entire picture. If not, and you don't treat enough, it's going to come back and be worse. It'll go back and forth. And some people take a year before they were diagnosed correctly, based upon what we saw with some of these case studies that we reviewed. So that's bad. You've got to know and make the diagnosis right away. Hit it hard. If the other bugs are there, hit them hard. Kill them. Kill.
I like this question. Is there a right way to remove a tick, or can you actually make it worse by pulling the wrong way?
You're not going to make it worse, because if it's in your skin, it just left its, freeloader, spirochete in your body, or the other, organisms. I've heard some people say that you put Vaseline on it and it'll let go and it'll be easier to remove. Maybe. I don't know. You want to try to get the entirety of it. And some people will grab the body, pull the body, then the head's still stuck. You got to take that out. Either way, you're not going to make a difference in what's happening, because once they're on you, if they've got that spirochete in their saliva, it's there.
Someone said, so if I pull it off, is it antibiotics right away or wait and watch?
I don't think waiting is a great idea. I would pull it off, take it to your doctor, call the doctor. You got a tick bite. Whatever you took off, give to them so I can send it to the lab and test it and get on the antibiotic for a couple of weeks. This is what has borne out in research, that the people who took 2 days of antibiotic for a random tick bite, if it were Lyme, it didn't do anything to it. And then think about all the other people who, the tick gets on you, leaves the spirochete, gets off, because it has these enzyme that breaks down your skin a little bit so it can get off, and that's part of what causes the rash. But you may feel you have a sore throat, you're achy, you take Motrin, the aches and pains feel better, but it's still Lyme disease. You have a sore throat, you take an antibiotic. It's not really working for the sore throat, but now you took an antibiotic for 2 or 3 or 4 days, and you're knocking down the other symptoms. But then as soon as the antibiotic's gone and the bug starts to bounce back, you're 5 times worse. People that take steroids for the aches and pains, that makes Lyme increase in its progression. So we have to be very, very specific as to what we do. Scary but true. Every state of the country.
I've heard natural oils like eucalyptus or cider really keeps ticks away. Or is this just wishful thinking?
I don't know. It might be wishful thinking. I haven't seen anything that says that is factual, You could look online and see, are there any natural oils, essential oils, et cetera, that can help to inhibit tick and mosquito progression. And I think some of that is what's used, like chrysanthemum oil, I know has been used by these companies that spray your yard, because it's completely safe for your vegetables, your plants, and everything else. But there's got to be something to that. I don't know that they've done studies where they took a bunch of Lyme creatures, put them in a box, and sprayed them, and it killed them. I don't know. Be curious to look at that, though.
So someone's got their son headed to sleepaway camp in the woods. How serious is the tick risk? And should I ask the camp staff about daily tick checks?
Daily tick checks. Absolutely. Ask the camp staff if they sprayed the area with the organic, oils and sprays that help to inhibit, but you've got to check. And then if the kid's going to be at camp for how many weeks, as soon as they get home, bring them to the doctor, test them for Lyme. Any inkling of symptom, any inkling of a rash or skin abnormality, don't wait for a bullseye rash. Any kind of rash. Bring them to the doctor, have them do a screening test for Lyme. Save yourself a lot of aggravation. Yeah, always be better to be safe than sorry. Imagine if the bug is there and you miss it, and now it becomes more significant, more progressive neurologic symptoms, anxiety, depression. I mean, you're better off being on antibiotic for a week or 2.
Someone's just saying that their son had it last summer, and now they're terrified to play in the woods.
Well, you can't play in the woods. I mean, play in an open area and still wear high white socks or something, so if the bug gets on you, you could see it. We got to take precautions.
There's always an event. When I was a kid, I got, the poison ivy.
Yeah.
And I was scared of the woods. You get a
Right.
tick bite, Something's going to happen in the woods.
You know what? Honestly, right now, I feel that it's better to have a healthy fear of going into the woods than not. I mentioned yesterday, I go out to Montauk and go fishing with my buddy Mike all the time. You met Mike. He's crazy but awesome. He's a great fisherman. He knows every little ins and outs of the hooks and this and that and the tide. And we take our, 4x4 trucks. You get a permit. You take them over the dunes, go out on the beach, and you're on the beach and nothing else is around you and there's nobody else out there. And bring some friends out. You make some food. You catch some fish. We used to go out in kayaks. I think he still does because he's a little crazy. Go out in kayaks and catch, fish and bluefish and this and that. But if you put them on a wire and you let them sit in the water, you're just baiting for sharks, because the big sharks are out there now. So I wouldn't get on the kayak and go more than like 10 feet offshore. But we had got e-bikes, and we can ride them through the woods to get to another big lake, another area to fish. And, that's Lyme Central. And at one point, I guess my front tire on the big fat tire on my e-bike hit a rock, and I flipped and went into the bushes. Not too far into the bushes, thankfully. But then I got up and I checked every inch of my body, and I had him check my back and stuff. And luckily, it was, before tick season. So, but still, you have to be aware. You have to be careful. I'd rather be a little bit aware and a little bit scared than be fearless and end up with a bad disease.
And that's our next question, just asking, when is the season?
So typically the active and the most active component is the nymph, and anywhere between the end of April to October is what they've described across the country. So in the warmer climates, would they come out sooner? Probably. In the colder climates, maybe they'd come out a little bit later, but that's the hot zone. But don't be afraid to tell your doctor and get tested.
And our YouTube hourly tick checks. And I said,
Why not?
Yeah. I think this person is the one that was talking about Robert Moses yesterday, but they said, I got a tiny tick in a very short mowed grass at a beach. They're everywhere. It's crazy.
Literally everywhere. If you were able to see some fluorescent picture with your phone or a camera where the ticks are when you're walking past vegetation, you'd go nuts. You'd never leave your house. It's scary, but it's true, and you got to protect yourself against this. I'm not saying you can never do anything, but make sure if you're going to be in any area, which is pretty much everywhere, you got to check. Long, up to the knee white socks, because if you see them on your white sock, great, there. Someone also, and I saw this online yesterday, I don't know if it was because you were talking about this, that on my phone, all this stuff about Lyme came up because, the phone listens to you, everything that you say. Some people take duct tape.
I've seen this.
And they wrap it around their sock, the high sock, and they make the sticky part on the outside, and that's where ticks will get stuck because they're crawling up your leg.
They said ticks go dormant in the winter. They don't die. They freeze and thaw out and wake right up. I hate these things.
It's bizarre science fiction.
It is.
Years ago, I had a poster of what a dust mite looks like, and that's freaky. We've spoken about this before. They look like prehistoric monster creatures that you can't see, but they're horrible looking, and so are ticks. You just don't want any of these things to come into your environment, but they're there. The question is, are we encroaching their environment or are they encroaching our environment? Probably a little bit of both. Just be smart, people.
Someone just asking, I've heard that kids might not show classic signs or symptoms like adults.
Well, yeah. I mean, an adult might feel more, might be able to articulate it better. Kids don't. And like I say, not every bug is finding a tick on your body, pulling it out, going to the doctor. Yes, it's a Lyme tick, bullseye rash. That's probably a very small percentage of what we see.
Someone else just saying, I bet you a lot of kids get Lyme and then are misdiagnosed with something like ADHD.
Absolutely. That was another big part of this program, that kids that have a variety of different neurologic and developmental issues may actually have Lyme.
That's wild.
Same thing with adults. They found people that had what they believed was MS was Lyme disease, and they treated them, and that reverted. Same thing with some people that had, other neurologic issues, dementia, and Alzheimer's. The doctor's got to be super thorough when you're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with your patient, but much more so now than ever before. Yep. Palpitations, cardiac issues. The creature can get anywhere in your body and damage any part of your body. Any of your organ discomfort, organ failure, it may be correlated with Lyme.
Just the thought that any child was prescribed Adderall or something because, he ended up having something else.
Well, traditional approach is to look at a symptom and try to use a drug. I have lots of people who come in and they're exhausted, and the doctors didn't test for iron, and women more frequently are iron deficient, of course, because they lose blood every month, and doctors don't test for it. We check and correct it, and they feel better. Or Epstein-Barr virus or other things, so doctors don't test for more than TSH and T4, and if you have a low T3, your thyroid could be low, or you have thyroid antibodies. They don't test for those things. That's why we want to make your blood test as thorough as possible.
Good on Lyme, I think.
Awesome. Let's see what else. Let's talk about our RPM plan. So,
oh yeah,
the idea of RPM, remote patient monitoring, has expanded a lot over the past few years. And although for many years we would do visits over the phone with patients that couldn't get in, etc., now we're doing a great deal of the telehealth visit, which we schedule you like we would any other patient. Some people do a consult, some people do a blood review, some people do follow-ups. They have questions, they have problems, new things pop up, we set that up. So I'm in the office, they're at home. And I've been telling people, I think that most of medical evaluation and medical connections with the doctor going forward are going to be telehealth. Does everybody need to come into the doctor's office? And for some people wait there a long time? Not necessarily. So the triage idea of figuring out what's going on, you might be able to do very well over the phone. And of course, if you've had a doctor visit recently, whether it's your doctor or with us, we know basically what's going on with your body. If we can send a lab to your home to get the blood work done and then review that blood work over the phone, you're not leaving your house, but you're getting all the good experience, the knowledge, the information that we normally impart to patients. Now we're starting this with Medicare. So that Medicare loves the idea of us tracking your vitals, because that saves hospital and ER visits, and it saves big problems. So typically what we do is the initial evaluation, whether you're in the office or you're at home, we have a lab come get your blood work done and review that blood work. And if you have hypertension, we can send a blood pressure cuff, a device that reads your blood pressure. This is what it looks like. Small little unit, zoom, zoom, zoom. Blood pressure cuff, as you can see. The uniqueness of this device is that it connects to what they call a gateway. A gateway is a hub that will read your blood pressure result and send it to the doctor. The second mechanism, which is really cool, is a little watch. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Like the size of an Apple Watch. You wear it on your wrist. It's got little reading devices. And I was pretty amazed at this. It tells you a variety of things. It tells you your heart rate, your pulse, your oxygen. And it can review your workout. It logs the data. Workout recommendations, workout record, heart rate, sleep patterns, whether you have sleep apnea or not. Blood oxygen. You can get messages to this thing. I guess you connect it to your phone. The weather. It can do your, as I say, your heart rate. It's got parameters for men and for women. And again, it sends the info, that you wear it on your wrist, it sends the info through the gateway. So if you're having arrhythmia, we'll know about it the moment it starts. So it's an immediate pickup from the watch or the blood pressure cuff to the gateway. We get notified. Either we're notified through cell phone. If it's during the day, we get called to the office, etc. So there's an AI component, so it's tracking and keeping all this going, and then this gathers information and sends it to us. God forbid you have an arrhythmia, we'll know about it. We'll get you set up either with your cardiologist, get you to the hospital, et cetera, so we can gather information immediately. In a lot of patients, and this is really what's brought this along, is that they can't get to their doctor for 3 or 4 months, can't get to their specialist, can't call and ask your doctor a question. We're making it so you can do that. So you have a question, you call the office, hey, we have a slot for you in 15 minutes, you have a slot in an hour, so you can get your questions answered. We get everything set up, send the blood work. If we send the devices as well, we can track all of these parameters. Especially for people during COVID that had horrible oxygen levels, we're reading your oxygen. So if you have lung issues and your oxygen drops, we're on it. So it's the beauty of having an immediate mechanism to understand what your body's doing. Also is a pill box. It's electronic. So if you need to take your meds, I'm not going to pull it out of the box. It takes too much work. If you forget to take your meds, Mrs. Jones, because sometimes you forget, Mrs. Jones, we're able to know that you didn't take your morning blood pressure pill moments after you didn't open it and call and say, hey, you forgot your morning blood pressure pill.
Genius.
So it's a brilliant idea. I wish I would have invented all this stuff, but I didn't. So the beauty of having these devices read your parameters, and it's kind of fun wearing the watch. I wore it the other day. I was running up in the office back and forth just to see how it would correlate with my heart rate, but it's a great idea. Lightweight watch, the blood pressure cuff, a glucometer, check your sugars. And you've got all these things that are tracked. Brilliant. People have a temperature, people feel bad, their oxygen changes, anything like that. And again, it's that one-on-one, contact with your doctor or the PA, the nurse prac. So this is what we're setting up. We've put a whole bunch of people on it over the past couple of weeks and past month or two, and they're doing well with it. No reason why I couldn't do it. At some point, we'll go to non-Medicare patients, but we have such a volume of Medicare patients, and again, they're the older population per se, that usually has more issues. This is a great way to be able to track them and prevent bad outcome. You hear about it all the time. A person said, oh, their pressure was a little bit high, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't addressed. They lied down. They had a stroke. It happens all the time. If the blood pressure goes up, when we see that, we address it, call the person right away, speak to the aide, the family member. We're working with a great nursing company, so we may be able to have nurses come to people's homes, maybe have nurses come and do vitamin IVs. We have all these ideas of what we can do. But it's just more immediate care, so it makes all the sense in the world.
People are amazed, especially at the vitamin thing.
Oh, the pill box?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Look, some genius out there said, hey, why don't we make an electronic box, and if people don't take their pills, we can see.
Crazy. Someone's asking, says, I always get high blood pressure at the doctor's office, but it's normal at home. Can these remote devices help prove that?
Well, yeah, the remote, yeah, exactly, because doctors are like, yeah, sure, you're fine at home, and here you're, 140 over 100. People have what they call white coat hypertension, but think of it. If you just go to the doctor and going there and having your blood pressure taken and seeing the doctor make you anxious and your pressure goes up, you're going to get anxious all the time when you're not in the doctor's office. Your pressure is going to go up. You can get aggravated because someone on the phone made you aggravated, your family member, your friend. You see something, you watch a scary movie. So that just means you have a very rapidly fluctuating blood pressure depending upon your anxiety levels. So we'd rather not have that happen. But if we can track your blood pressure and say, hey, for the past month, your blood pressure only went up once, and it's because you were playing pickleball or whatever, then we know that you're fine most of the time. That it becomes somewhat insignificant when your pressure's up a little bit when you go to the doctor. So it's just a genius way to track your body and keep everything within the right range.
Someone's just saying, I get random heart flutters. Can a telehealth program like this with heart monitoring actually catch those when they're
Absolutely.
happening?
Because that's what that watch does. It looks at your pulse. If your pulse becomes erratic, if it slows down, if it goes too fast, if you have extra beats, it's tracking. We'd know about it. Then we take appropriate steps. Now, for people that we've seen this before, I'll give you a couple of cases in point over the past couple of months. Person's taking a blood pressure pill, and sometimes their pressure is low or lower normal. We tell them, hey, your pressure is a little bit lower normal. Don't take it if it's this number. If it goes up, then take it. Now, with this monitor, we see a patient's blood pressure went up in the morning. They didn't need the pill prior, but it's a little bit higher. We want it. We call them and say, hey, take the Toprol, the 25 milligrams, because that'll bring your pressure down and get to a better range. Good, done. Not that person having a higher blood pressure for the whole day and not realizing it and having some sort of risk. Same thing with blood sugar. For people that we're regulating that are diabetic, if they're not following a low-carb diet, we'll know when they're eating too much carb because their sugar is going to spike. And if the sugar spikes a lot and they didn't take their meds, take the meds, and then let's recheck it and see where you are. So it's immediate, care and correction, which is it's never been done before.
So someone's saying, are insurance companies or Medicare covering these?
Medicare covers this, absolutely. The codes for telehealth used to be 9944, 194, 99442, 99443. They just revamped those codes to follow the regular office codes, which are 99202, 99203, 99204, 99205 for a brand new patient. Different levels of problems or time frame for that patient for the visit. And the code modifier is 95. So in the computer, we would put a 99203-95. That means a moderate initial office visit, brand new patient. And it's a telehealth because it's a -95. Second visit, when we go over the blood work over the phone, it may be 99213 or 99214, depending on how much time and volume of information we go over. -95. So that's there. I don't have the codes for the telehealth memorized, but they're there on our encounter form, our top sheet form. And we check them off, put in the diagnosis, put in the blood pressure cuff, put in the watch. We send it to the biller, and he sets that part up. And we hand the recommendations to the gentleman who works with the RPM company, and we get it set, get it done. So that's why we're doing this primarily with Medicare right off the bat, because they're on it. They want it.
And someone's just saying, this sounds incredible. Can a caregiver also receive alerts or reports from these devices, like a daughter helping monitor?
So, yes, there's a way to do that. And we could also send it to the primary care, to the cardiologist, the specialist. So, yeah, there's a whole mechanism in there to do that. So, yeah, I mean, brilliant.
And, of course, how tech savvy do you have to be?
You don't have to be tech savvy at all, really. You got to plug in the watch when the watch looks like it's running down on the battery, but you can see that on the front of the watch. You plug it in. It probably takes a half hour to charge. With the cuff, you just put in the cuff up your arm and press the button. With the glucometer, yeah, you're testing your sugar, but that's easy to do. And there are other devices that they're looking at. I didn't speak to the company about yet, but they're looking at to create, an addition to these things. But again, each new device has to be FDA approved and then Medicare approved. But these are so far Medicare approved, so that's why we're starting with these. I think at some point there are going to be certain tests that you could do at home, whether it's a little blot test, a finger blot test, saliva testing for genetics. Some of these are going to come out at some point relatively soon because there's no science of having to do them. It's easy. People could do them at home.
Are you actually able to keep up with all the data these monitors generate, or is some of this ignored?
Well, no, the data is collected, and any abnormals, we get text messages for. We get called at the office. So it's been 20 or 30 calls, during the week. So the more people that are on it, we expect more. But, I have a nurse prac, Jackie, right now, who's the first that's, been doing this. We're going to hire another nurse prac and hire a PA. We may have 10 people that are constantly on top of this, and they can go into the portal and look at a week's worth of everything. So we get notified when things are happening. We get notified if things are good and not to worry. But if we need to follow and say, okay, how many times over the month did they have a palpitation, or how many times over the month? That's all in the portal. So we are going to sit with that portal on the computer, and everyone's going to have their own computer, iPad, which are not inexpensive. But everyone's going to have their own iPad and be able to look at this and print up graphs, and it becomes part of the medical record. It's great.
Genius.
You know, the AI component is that you can get on and say, for Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Manicati, if anybody used to watch The Honeymooners, for Mrs. Manicati, give me a month of her heart rate, give me a month of her blood sugars, give me a month of her oxygen. And it's right there.
Oh, someone's asking if it has fall detection.
I have to find out if the watch has fall detection, because one of them we were speaking about was looking at fall detection. So that's been in the conversation. I have to find out how soon that might be ready.
Can these heart monitors alert doctors or emergency services if something looks really wrong, like a dangerously high heart rate?
Well, yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
So it's recorded into that data, and then where you send it depends upon, like if you got a long-standing cardiac patient, well, yeah, you got to have that connect to the cardiologist besides us. And typically those patients are going to have an aide at home, or they're going to have a relative, a family member, and once they see or hear, you know, a buzz or something, they'll be alerted to make that call too. So for any Medicare patients, red, white, and blue Medicare card, local or otherwise, certainly give us a call. We can help you out with this. 516-794-0404 and website drcalapai.com. Let's see what other questions we have. What other information we have to go over?
We have an old comment I just saw. Possums eat all the ticks in your yard, so we like possums. That was one that I missed.
You can have possums as pets, right?
They look cute.
Well, a lot of birds eat ticks.
They kind of possums. They got some teeth on them.
Yeah, they look a little scary sometimes.
A little bit. And then Mrs. Manicotti. I love The Honeymooners.
At least someone heard the reference.
That actually went right over my head.
Mrs. Manicotti. Yeah, great show.
Great show. That's my New Year's. I just watch it on repeat. I forget what channel plays it every year.
There are a couple of older channels that play all that stuff. I forget the name of them, but, you know, Gilligan's Island, everything from going way back, Twilight Zone, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the vitamin pack, because just as we're doing this for the RPM patients, for Medicare, and all our patients, we're doing the vitamin pack. So it's a way to get your blood test done to see what you're deficient in and see what your diet's like, see what your medical conditions are. And then I create a pack for you based upon all of that. So everybody gets a multi, everybody gets CoQ10, vitamin D, K2. We may add more magnesium if a person's low or they have hypertension or asthma. We may add more of a probiotic if they've got a digestive issue. Of course, with a digestive issue, we test for food allergy, take those things out of your diet. We may add nattokinase. We can use a combination of nattokinase, quercetin, curcumin, bromelain, etc., which may have anti-spike protein benefit. Dr. McCullough has been talking about that for a long time now. So there are a lot of different things that we can put together for in that pack, and the methylene blue, of course. So learning about your body, as I say, in a comprehensive fashion, I put together recommendations for the nutrients, a morning pack, an evening pack. Within a month, we recheck the abnormals, if it's a low D or this or that, and we may adjust if need be, and then we correct, and then patients are doing beautifully. You don't have to go to a place and buy all sorts of different vitamins you don't have a need for. And we know how well these work because we're testing people, making the recommendation, and retesting to prove the results. So it's the perfect way to correct your vitamin levels. And for patients who can't get to the office, we do the telehealth for that too. If you're far away, we can give you a prescription to get your blood work done at a local lab if you're very far. If you're not that far, you're in the tri-state area, then we may be able to have the lab come to you and do that. So trying to figure out how to make things work better for people going forward.
Someone's asking, when are they ready? The vitamins.
Vitamins are already ready. We've been doing it already.
Guys.
We've done it for a couple of months already.
Visit the website.
I didn't put up anything big on the website for Lyme yet. I'm going to write my own white paper on it, I think, where I'm going to write up everything that's pertinent for people to understand. Maybe just an outline that says, this is what we've learned from the latest research. We're going to put together recommendations or discussions about the RPM. I'm going to put together discussion about the vitamin packs, but the vitamin packs we've been doing for a few months already. It's probably 4 months or 5 months. But people love it. You get a box with your name on it. You get tear sheets on the inside so you can see what the vitamins are all about and benefits. And then in the morning you take your pack with food, you eat it, boom, done. You want to go out to dinner, you take your pack. Eat it while you're eating dinner at the restaurant. It just makes it so much easier. I also want to see if the device that you wear on your arm to measure your blood sugar for 2 weeks to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if we can get that on board for some people, because I want to be able to have that constant track of the blood sugar. So I don't know yet whether Medicare covers that through this mechanism. I know they cover it for people in general, so we can give you a prescription to get the Freestyle Libre or the Dexcom, etc. But it's a great thing to have as well. It just won't be electronically transmitted. I want to have it through that gateway thing, so it becomes automatic. And if we don't get it through the gateway, if that takes a little more time, we can just get it, write a prescription, pop it on, and just send us the readings. Makes it easy. I went to a great gathering the other day. A friend of mine, Amy, who I met through my friend Tom, an accountant. We have the same accountant. She's got a wonderful business, 15, 20 years of working with people with home care. She has nurses that'll go to people's homes to help take care of them. She's trying to put together a company where people can be picked up and taken to medical visits and back and forth. And it's going to take a little bit of work. She doesn't have a whole host of cars yet, but I told her that you can try to do it in a way that's like an Uber, where a person can use their own car and get paid X amount to bring people back and forth. So, there may be a way to do that, but she's got a big heart. She had a big picnic barbecue the other day. Wednesday was in Massapequa Park, and she had 500 plus people at this gathering, a big band shell where musicians were playing. Joe Saladino, the supervisor, was there. I've seen him many times. He's a really, really nice guy. Good drummer, too. And all this music is playing, and, I spoke to these people about the RPM, and they were thrilled with it. So I think it's a great mechanism to be able to help with. So we're working on a combination of things. If there's a patient that's under my care, because we've done a visit, either telehealth or regular visit, we want them to have IVs, we could make the IV and have the nurse bring it to the patient so they can do it at home. So now we're thinking about that and the logistics of it. So
things in the works.
Always working on something interesting.
For you. For you.
That's right.
Someone, by the way, is saying it used to be on WPAX Channel 11, the Honeymooners New York Day Marathon, and then I can be a driver for her if she supplies the car. We got someone.
Yeah, so my comment to her was that if you got to go out and buy a bunch of cars, then you've got the repair and the maintenance and this and that to do on the car, which, can be expensive. I had a good friend who had a very, very big taxi company on Long Island, McRides, Taxi Latino, and the expense for repairing these things was staggering. He was bought out by a very big company, which he was happy after, 30 years of doing it, but it probably would be easier if people had their car and et cetera. So, but, I'll keep everybody abreast of this. I want to do some lectures at the Marriott Hotel in Uniondale. I'm going to start that up again. So anybody who hears this, who's local, if you're interested, certainly give us a call at the office, 516-794-0404. Tell them you heard on the program that we're going to do a lecture at the Marriott. I got to pick the day, maybe a Saturday afternoon. Maybe we'll live stream the show from there, which I was just talking to Frankie about that yesterday. We'll set up the show from the Marriott, and we'll answer questions and have fun. So a lot of new things coming down the pike.
We're making moves. You guys are quiet today, by the way.
Yeah, it's a little rainy here.
A rainy
day. Rainy,
huh?
sleepy day. Every day doesn't have to be super crazy. Another article people might not want to hear about. Dementia risk rises with alcohol use. According to a new study, Clinical Medicine, there's a linear relationship between the amount of alcohol one consumes and the risk of developing dementia. Now, I'm not going to say that you can't have a glass of wine here and there, or even a glass of wine with dinner every day, because I've seen patients over 37 years that do that and are fine. But they're talking about, harder alcohol. They're talking about progressive and continued drinking, more than moderate drinking. Alcohol wipes out your vitamins. Alcohol gives you a ton of sugar, so that's not good for you. So you have to be careful, judicious. Moderation and a little bit here and there is fine, but I wouldn't go crazy. And the people who on the weekend have lots of alcohol and don't have much during the week, that's really bad because you're really putting that significant strain on all your organ systems. Another article that I pulled off the other day talks about cadmium exposure linked to memory problems, dementia, and Alzheimer's. So cadmium we know is linked with breast cancer, but a study published in the Journal of Neurology talks about cadmium causing memory loss and cognitive damage. Now, I've been saying that for 37 years because when I first started in practice and I was going to every course I possibly could, I went to courses on chelation and learned about heavy metals causing damage to every part of your body. So we knew that back then. This is just a newer study on the same idea. So Medical News Today, which is a great source for, interesting studies, it's not going to give you a million studies, but it'll give you some interesting stuff. I pull it off and talk about it on the program because it's real. Lead, mercury, and cadmium are in lipstick and makeup. Cadmium is in a reddish-colored dyes. They use it in tattoos. You got to check your blood for metals, and you got to check urine, most important, for metals. Everybody should, because of the significant levels we're seeing in all sorts of people. And for those of you who believe that we're getting exposed to aluminum and metals from airborne source, we are. Different states are banning, the seeding, cloud seeding, etc., because they know what they're putting in the clouds. So a lot of that correlates with aluminum.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist.
Yep. Yeah, that's okay. Who was it? Someone well-known and someone who's smart enough said, we need more new conspiracy theories because all the other ones came true.
It's true.
Scary but true.
Thanks, RFK.
Yeah.
Call that one out. That was the last one. They're spraying the skies. No, they're not. Well, it appears they are.
I can't wait to see all the different things that he does. And all these people in the administration are working really hard. So, I got to give him credit. Alrighty, we're sort of down towards the end of the program. We've covered a lot of ground. People, if you like, you could email me and ask questions, and we can go over stuff. drcalapai.com is the website. The phone number for the office is 516-794-0404, and we'd love to hear from you. We're excited to see that we're getting a really amazing response on Saturdays here, in part because of Rumble and LFA, and our numbers are going beyond the 60,000, 70,000 per show, which is spectacular. We're also told by powers that be that within the end of June into July and August and September, numbers spike even higher on Rumble and LFA because people are coming back from vacation and such, which is wonderful. We're working on, we'd love to be able to get an added show on, maybe during the week, but we're working on that. So we'll keep you abreast of all the cool things and important things that we're doing, whether we talk about Lyme disease, evaluating patients, treating patients, nutrition, RPM, etc. Lectures. So, yeah, if you'd like to come to the lecture, just call the office and say you'd like to come and how many people you want to bring. It's free.
We already got someone in the chat said they're coming.
Awesome. Excellent, excellent. So we shall chat with you on Monday, my friends. Have a wonderful weekend. Be healthy, happy, safe. Stay away from ticks. weeds, grasses, bushes. Be safe. Bye-bye now.